Hey, good morning, guys. Welcome back to another daily reflection. I'm so glad that you're here. As we approach today's readings, I believe that through today's readings, God is calling upon us to not only know our faith, but to also share our faith. We begin in today's first reading where our author starts by reminding once again, reflecting upon the priesthood and sacrifice of Jesus. After this brief reflection, our author places great significance on how knowing our faith and knowing this truth, this should make it clear that we, followers of Christ, have direct access and confidence to approach God and to enter into his sanctuary. That we have access to God through Christ. And he uses the image of the veil. Specifically, he points out how God opened this up through Christ, through the veil. You see, I think this is an important reference. You see, if you recall, it was the temple veil that actually separated people from the Holy of Holies, which ultimately represents an obstacle that kept man from actually having a direct access to God. And at the passion of Jesus, the death of Jesus, after giving up his last cry to God and his final words, he gives up his spirit. In the very next verse, we read, "And behold, the veil was torn in two from top to bottom." That veil was torn, and you and me, and the readers of this letter, are reminded that we now have direct access and confidence to access God through Christ. What are the obstacles in our life that keep us from going with confidence to the throne of God? Perhaps for some of you, it could be pride. Others, it may simply be the lack of confidence in knowing and understanding your faith. You see, the reality is that even though the veil was torn, the adversary, Satan himself, wants to continue to prevent us from entering into the sanctuary and ultimately approaching God with direct access and confidence. Again, our author in Hebrews continues on his exhortation by encouraging his readers that they should consider how to rouse and encourage one another to Christian love and good works, and ultimately reminds them that they should not stay away from their assembly, as is custom of some of those. What this is the liturgical community, as we would see it today in modern time, and I believe it would be the same reference that our author is pointing out in today's first reading. This is the celebration of the Eucharist. So another question is, in what ways do you need to be encouraged or roused to return to the community in which you belong to? Or perhaps today's readings are really encouraging you to think about the ways in which you can be the one encouraging one another. Friends, all of us have people in our lives who have fallen away from the faith. Friends, we should not stay away from the assembly. We should not stay away from this celebration of the Eucharist. This is an essential part of our faith. The Eucharist is the source of our faith. It is not a symbol. We believe that it is the real presence of Christ. And when we go to Mass and when we go to communion, we are receiving the bread of life. We are receiving eternal life. We are receiving Jesus Christ himself. I believe it is his prayer that all of us would be the people who long to see his face. Now, when we turn to today's gospel, we see the parable of the lamp. So continuing on with the theme of rousing or encouraging one another, Christ is using the parable of the lamp to illustrate the importance of making the truth of Christ visible to others. That through our confidence, our sincere heart, our absolute trust, and that if we hold unwaveringly to our confession, this promise and what we believe and what we know about our faith should be shared with others. To me, the illustration of placing a lamp under a bushel basket or even under the bed is the evidence of one who may know the promises and know the faith, but doesn't have the confidence to share this truth or to share this light with others. For some of us, the first step today might be just replacing this dim light bulb. It may mean that we need to refresh and sharpen the knowledge of our faith, to be reminded and reflect upon the priesthood and sacrifice of Christ and the gospel of the good news in general. Friends, there's many resources for you to do that. Some of you may have access to join your local OCIA classes and joining those that are entering the church. There's many great podcasts, the Catechism in a Year, the Bible in a Year. There are many amazing Catholic content creators that create amazing content here on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. There is no end to the amount of content that is available for you and I to sharpen our faith. Others need to take this light from being their personal nightlight, those that just want a small amount of light, just enough to emit into their room, into their world. Those that may use this light more for their sense of security or comfort. Perhaps it's time to take this nightlight and really make this visible for all in the house to see. So once again, maybe you're the one today that needs to be encouraged and needs to be roused to return to the good news of Christ and return to the assembly, the celebration of the Eucharist. Or perhaps the Lord is calling upon you today to be the light, to bring your lamp and place it on the lampstand, to have the courage to share your faith. No matter where you are, God is calling upon us to know our faith and to share our faith. Friends, thank you so much for tuning in for another daily reflection. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Until then, God bless.